Hello, class. It's Mr. Applequist. We're going to continue our mountain drawings today. We're going to be working on the mist and a gradient for the background. So we left off, we were working on this triangle shape. I actually kind of got it cut off, so hopefully you finished it. But if you didn't finish it, I'll go through it right now. We just wanted to change the color of this. I think it was like this kind of like light gray at one point. We want it to be black. So we've got it black now. And it's only showing us what's in the canvas within the canvas frame. But that's all we really needed. We can go back if we want to after to adjust some of these. We can convert them. They're already converted to paths, so we can just stretch some of them out to get rid of some of those gaps. Make it look a little more like this gap is kind of bothering me right here with this one. So let's just stretch some of these over. Just kind of connecting them to make them look more uniform. Like right here, an obvious large gap between it, so let's just try and make it conform, you know? After you've done that, just a few adjustments. And again, it shouldn't be that obvious, so you don't need to stress out over this part. Our next step, we did some of those adjustments. We're going to zoom out, look at our picture. And what we want to do is add that mist in. So let's bring down our tree so that it's just, we can see all of our paths. We want this to be included in our tree path because it's part of our tree outline. So let's drag that on the layers menu, pick it up. So hold down the mouse on it and drag it and put it into the trees. Now it is part of the trees group. So what we're going to do is add a rectangle to this to make our mist. We could do it by adding a gradient to one of these if we wanted, but we're actually going to add a square to it. I am actually just adjusting this to pull it out to the edge because I see a slight line between it and the edge of the canvas. Same with this one. I'm just going to pull it off screen because I see this little edge. If you guys couldn't see it before, there was a little edge between. I just wanted to pull that off screen so that it meets up full well with the edge. Same with this one. I'm just going to pull the edge off screen. And now we can see our points off screen. So now everything looks like it's contained within the picture. So like I said, we're going to add a rectangle and we're going to add a blur to the rectangle to make our mist effect. So we want a rectangle between the closest left mountain and the trees. So right between these two, we want to put a rectangle. So hit R for rectangle, then click and drag across the entire screen. We can always readjust it. So let's drag this over here and drag this over here. So we want this actually behind the trees, but in front of the mountain. So I'm going to drag it between these two because that's exactly where I want it. You can actually, if you want to undo that, if you want to just do control down arrow, that'll do the same thing. It'll bring it down one layer. So now it just looks like this mountain just got shortened, but we want it to look like it's rising from the mist. So what we're actually going to do is give it a blur. And we're going to increase the blur to, let's try 27. Not bad. Looks pretty cool. 38's pretty good too. Let's actually turn back on our picture to see what the original picture looks like. I'm actually just winging this right now. So I'll turn off the opacity on the rectangle. And I'm going to turn off the opacity on the closest mountain. So it goes to about here. So let's turn our mountain back on again. I didn't want to lock it. I wanted to turn it back on. Unlock. Turn the... So that's meeting up right exactly where I wanted it to. So it's a pretty good guess. Let's turn back on our closest mountain on the left. So we've got our mist going on the left at least. Now we're just going to do the same thing wherever we see the mist, wherever we really want to. I think there should be one right here between this mountain, closest on the left, and our middle gray. So let's do... We could probably just actually get away with something between this guy, closest on the right, and closest. If we do one between any of these two, it should work. So it can be between the closest on the left and closest on the right, or it could be between the closest on the right and the middle gray. I hope I'm not being too confusing. So let's do another rectangle going across the screen. So I started on the left and I'm dragging it across. It's okay if I need to just drag it, if I just need to resize it afterwards. The screen won't allow you to go across the entire screen. That's fine. You can just let go and resize it like I just did. We want this to be white. So let's go to our white color. Might be an off-white. I think it actually is closer to an off-white. I think it's that. Let's go with that second white color. And we want this to be a little bit stretched out further. So let's stretch this downwards. And let's bring it also down here a little bit further. So let's bring it to about there and see if we can give it a blur. And let's bring it up in to about 27, somewhere in the middle there. 30 will work. So let's just copy and paste this now. Control C, Control V. And let's put one just between the middle gray mountain and the farthest on the right mountain. So all we did was drag it backwards. We dragged it higher on the screen, but we just want to send it backwards on the layers menu now. So we want this mist, we'll call this the third row of mist. We'll call this third mist, or third row. If anything has a row, we know it's talking about mist. This is the second row, let's label that. Call that second row. And this will be front row, or first row, just to keep everything uniformed. So we've got our mists labeled. We need to rearrange where this one goes though. The third row mist needs to be between the middle gray mountain and the farthest left mountain. So let's drag this third row. It just needs to be behind this at least, right? Let's bring it behind. We want it just ahead of middle gray. So I'm trying it just ahead of middle gray mountain. There, see, we wanted it ahead of this one on the left, but also in front of this one. And we can bring down, we want a little bit, just to see a little more of our mountain. Let's go a little bit higher so we don't see as much of our mountain. Something like that looks pretty good. And if we want, we can make this a little bit larger because it looks like it's kind of, whoa, didn't want to do that, Control Z. What I wanted to do was adjust that with the subselection tool. I just wanted to so I hit D on the keyboard, and I'm going to drag this downwards so that it is covered by the mist now. And same with this mist, I'm actually going to drag it further downwards. There we go. So let's just copy one more row of mist. I'll copy this one again. Control C, Control V. And I need the selection tool, black selection tool. So I hit V on the keyboard. And now I am going to drag this to the back. I want it, I think, behind the, I want it behind Paramount. So this one that I've copied and pasted, I want it behind the Paramount, but in front of that one. So that looks good. And I might change the color of the Paramount one because it's the same color as the mist. So let's see if I can change the color of the Paramount one to okay, that's better. So I'm just going to label this one fourth row because it is a fourth row back. Now these codes are all just for you, so it's all up to you how you label them, whatever makes sense to you. I just thought it would make sense to call these mountains so you know which one is which. And you can call these fog, or you can label them like I did, just third row, first row. That made the most sense to me. Last thing we're going to do is give this a gradient for the background. So let's click just above the picture, Far Mountain, and let's make a rectangle that takes up the entire screen. So I'll go from this corner, stretch it across. If the screen doesn't work with you, you can just let go. And now we can stretch it across. Went a little higher than we needed, so I'll just bring it back down from the top. Let's go a little off the edge so we make sure that it covers the entire screen. And scroll that down. Perfect. So the next thing I want to do, I think because this is completely white, it's also blocking my Far Mountain. So what you can do is select this rectangle and send it backwards. You can do Control down arrow, or you can pick it up over here on the layers menu. See how it just moved there? That's because I hit Control down arrow. Now let's give it a gradient. So click on the fills and give it a gradient. Let's just go with a linear gradient. And we want this is kind of cool actually with the darkness on the side. Like right over here. So